Hey, Brooke, how is it going? Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm good, all things considering, hanging in there.
Yep.
It's always interesting because I've connected with people from the UK and here in America all over, and now you're a significant time difference away from me too. So it's always fun to see kind of where we are on the planet and how the times align.
Yep. And I'm a
Well,
day
Brooke,
ahead of you.
yes. Well, your story was one that I knew as soon as I found you. I found you through another survivor, Allison Carter, and I think a lot of people have found each other through just this movement of bringing more awareness and people actually speaking out. And your story captivated me and touched me in so many different ways because the things that you've been through are things that most people have never understood happen in the world, and they're things most people, even if they could understand happen, could never understand going through them. And I've learned so much from you. I said to you whenever you first got on here that I feel almost starstruck being with you on this call because I've learned so much, and your influence already on me and on so many people has been so impactful. And I know that that's just going to keep continuing as more people hear your story. But I wanted to bring you on here. I'd love to have you on for another episode or a few episodes to talk about certain topics that might be a little bit unfamiliar to people. But for this episode, I wanted to share about you and your story and introduce people to what you've been through, who you are, and up to where you are right now. So, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love if you would take the floor and we could start at your childhood if you want and just tell as much or as little as you want about you and your story.
Okay. um, well, I grew up in New Zealand. My mum and father, uh, they were teenagers. Unbeknownst to me that, mum being a part of the cult. So whatever story they told me about me being conceived is probably not correct. So yeah, but I was born in the North Island of New Zealand, and it's quite a nice place up there. And so I went to school and went to high school, and I had a lot of yeah, I don't have a lot of memories of it because of the amnesia. So school was all right from what the memories I do have, and then high school was really difficult. I had friends, though. I made friends, and we've still friends to this day. There's only a few people that you'll ever be able to say you're true friends, and so I'm thankful that some of them are the ones that I went through high school with. A lot of them didn't know what I was going through at the time, as I hid everything, because you were told to hide everything. And then in my 20s, I moved away for a while. Things got crazy, and I moved down to the South Island. Now, when I say things got crazy, there's a lot of things I don't actually remember because of the amnesia, but I did have a lot of depression, anxiety, and a lot of those sort of PTSD symptoms that I didn't know why I had them. I had children not long after I was 30. I didn't want children. And I didn't want children because deep down inside myself, I obviously knew what was going to happen in the world. And I didn't want children because of this crappy world, you see. That was definitely one reason, but deep down inside, I obviously knew about what had gone on in my childhood and the New World Order stuff. But I ended up having some after I was 30. And then I started to go to university and go and do psychology and criminal justice to work in forensics. So I started to do part-time, and that is when everything started to come unraveling in my life and come to pieces. That is where the memories and the dreams that I'd had over the years growing up came to the forefront, and I realized that they possibly weren't dreams, that they were actual real events. And in psychology, one day they put up the power and control wheel, and I realized that basically they were trying to tell me that it was wrong, and my brain literally like snapped. It was like it just went to a grinding halt, like, and physically something hurt in my brain when they were saying that all of this stuff on the power and control wheel, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, physical and sexual abuse, was wrong. And I was just like, huh? I was like, that's been my whole life. What are you talking about? It's wrong. That's just normal. What are you talking about? And so, yeah, that was the beginning of my breakdown, or what you would say is breakthrough, and my awakening. I started to dissociate, which is a form of escapism. Dissociative identity disorder is formerly known as multiple personality disorder, and there is a lot of amnesia around dissociation, and all sorts of crazy things started coming out of me. Excuse me. And I was telling people all of these different things about the trafficking that's going on worldwide, and about Freemasons and Illuminati and the New World Order and satanic rituals, mind control. I was sharing it all, but I didn't even know how or why I knew it. It was really freaking me out
And who were you
because I
sharing
didn't.
it with? Was it your classmates that you were starting to open up to, or were there specific people that you were telling?
Online
Okay.
mainly, and then people, yes, I guess my husband at the time and friends. That's right. Yeah, I did go around some churches as well. Yeah, and my counselor, yeah, I didn't know what was going on at all. She didn't know what was going on at all, or what any of this stuff was to do with the New World Order.
And for people who are listening, you might want to grab a pen and paper or open up the notes in your phone if you're able to, and just jot some of these things down that you're going to hear today. This is information that you're never going to see on the news. This is information that is coming straight from the source. And the things that Brooke has been through, from child sex trafficking to satanic ritual abuse to everything in between and MK Ultra programming. These are going to be a lot of new things that you may have never heard before. So if you wouldn't mind, Brooke, would you be able to just give a brief synopsis or kind of elevator pitch on what the New World Order is? Because I know that that'll be a prime topic that we'll be discussing in this episode and the other ones.
Okay, yep. The New World Order is basically one world government and one world religion of worshipping Lucifer. Yeah. So obviously one world government, and that is bringing all of the countries into a, I guess, agreement or group, and governing as one government, and one world religion, which is anything goes sort of deal, and that will be pushed from the top, which is at the Vatican. Unfortunately, Satan infiltrated the church, and so they want everybody to worship Lucifer, or they being the spirits behind the people that are in power.
And we'll dive deeper into that. I want to spend more time, maybe on another episode, kind of dissecting and going through the structure of who they are and what the New World Order encompasses, and kind of more who's involved and how that's structured. So I appreciate you breaking that down. And I think you were talking about who you were explaining your story to before I interrupted you.
Yeah.
So you want to pick up where you left off?
And so a lot of people just thought I was absolutely insane, and I even thought I was insane, and it really felt insane because of the post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, actually, I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So children who go through so much trauma end up with complex PTSD. So that's something else people can look into. And then so everyone just thought I was nuts because all of these people were asleep.
Had you had any PTSD at all in your life before the breakdown or breakthrough?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And you just did
My
you have
whole
any
life.
idea what it could be from, or did you speculate?
So I did have an incident where I was about 7 years old, where I did some things with a boy, and this would constantly play in my mind. And this is what they do through the different projects, is there's one trauma that they'll just make replay. So it's kind of like a shadow or something covering the rest. Anyway, this trauma, it was weird because I did this stuff with this young boy, and most people would say it was sexual abuse, but for me it was really hard because I knew what I was doing and I did it really well, and I never understood how a 6 and 7-year-old could do that stuff very well, like kissing and just all that sexual stuff. And so for a long time I was like, how did I even know what to do? Like, why was I so good at it? Like at that age, that's just, I'm not saying I was, like what I'm saying. It's such a hard topic, but it's like I knew what to do. I knew how to do it. It was like, how the hell did a child of 6 years of age know that stuff? And that's what I would question all the time. And I would constantly in my mind would tell me that I was a whore and I was a slut and I deserved it and I did it. I know now that that was the programming, but so I had PTSD all my life, suicidal, self-harmful, cutting, alcoholic from the age of 13, biking to school every day, drinking vodka, pissed before I got to school. Nobody knew it. Not even the teachers. Yeah. So I did have a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, hypervigilance, and things like that. But the dissociation, the amnesia masks it all. So and then I went through that. So there was about 13 to 17 years of age. And then I had a break for a couple of years. It wasn't that bad. And then in my early 20s, I got into a relationship that I didn't want to be in. They put me in one, I feel, because they put people along your path. So this person, I wasn't even with this person. And basically they were guilting me that they were going to suicide if I wasn't going to be with them. So I was stuck in a relationship with that person for 4.5 years. And that was a real bad time too. That was all the types of abuse as well, apart from physically being hurt. And then my husband came along, which he's a breeder. he was interjected into my life right at that time. I didn't know at the time. And then I, split up with the other one. And I never wanted to get married, but I ended up marrying this person, obviously because it was programming. And then not long after that, it was about a month or so after our wedding, that my brother and father had an argument, and my brother brought up something to do with my mum and the abuse and stuff, and that triggered me. And so then I started to have all this type of post-traumatic stress again, depression, anxiety, all of that, self-harm, suicidal. And that went on for another few years. And then the earthquakes happened, we went away. So all this entire time, over my whole period of my life, I've always had suicidal and self-harmful thoughts, depression, anxiety, all of that. So yeah, it wasn't like a peach, that's for sure.
Probably just didn't
Yeah,
understand why. And from the outside, it probably looked like you
yeah,
were a rebellious child instead of a traumatized child.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, and so that's what happened when I started to break down after going to university and dissociating. But all of this other stuff was happening, like, and it was next level. So my counselor one day said to me, "Do you think you might be multiple personality disorder?" And basically I said, "F you," and I left. I was like, what a crazy, beep, 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 beep. And I just thought she was nuts. And I went home, and like something, obviously later, something inside of me, or the Holy Spirit maybe, prompted me to look at what it was. And it actually made sense to my entire life. And so, yeah, I looked up what dissociative identity disorder was. Anyway, I was real confused, and because I didn't understand, like, I didn't think I had ever experienced anger or sadness or any of these sorts of emotions. And obviously, that was all amnesic to me. So I was really frustrated one day, and I wondered, yeah, that's right. I was like, what is personality? And I sat down to think about what my personality might be, like, am I a happy person, or am I, a sad person? Or I didn't even know what personality, emotions, or feelings were at the time. And I sat down at the table and I was like, right, what is personality? What is personality? God, what is personality? And I didn't even believe in God back then. And I didn't even realize it was him anyway. But next minute, just like a massive download hit me. And it's just like writing all over the page, all sorts of different types of personality traits. And next minute, some of these were in different sections, and then they also had names and ages. And I was like, what the heck is this? And at the top, I had written this big name, a name in big capital letters. And I knew that that was my name I was given. And I'm just like freaking out inside of me, really going, what the hell's this? Like, this is nuts. But it actually all really felt correct. It was weird. And so I took that to my counselor the following week, and she just, like, actually, I only took half of it. I only took half a page because I didn't want to freak her out, like, because I was freaked out because there was 13 parts.
And
That
did
was not
they
a,
have different handwritings, or was there anything
yeah,
delineating it? Yeah, and your hands just writing without really your control.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Um, and my head, I don't, I know at those stages I'd have lots of headaches, and the headaches would come and go. But now I know that that was the different personality switching, because when you first start dissociating and switching personalities, it brings on a dissociative headache. One minute you'll have a headache, and then the next minute it'll be gone because another part of yourself has come forward, kind of thing, or switched. So yeah, she was like freaked out a little
I'm
because she was
sure.
like, yeah, because one week I'm like saying, no, she's a crazy person, and that, no, this can't be right. And then next minute I'm turning up with this like list of them with names and ages and all sorts. and just, and like, yeah, and one was called Beast, and like things like that. And one was Beauty. And like at that point, I never ever thought that it was Disney stuff. I never clicked for at least a freaking year and a half after even knowing about mind control that I had Disney stuff, because I was like super happy. I was like, I don't have any Disney stuff. I don't have any Disney stuff. And then yeah, a year and a half later, somebody said about the movie Beauty and the Beast, and I just flipped. I was like, oh my gosh, that's two of those 13 parts was Belle and Beast. I was like, crap, I do have Disney stuff.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
yeah, so I'm sorry, I keep going sideways, don't I?
No, it's good.
Anyway, so yeah, showed her that. We kind of, and then the next stage really that I remember was starting a Facebook under that name at the top that I had written, which was probably the worst idea I could have done, but I had no idea at the time. But that was the MK Ultra name that they had given me. That's the one that'll be on my file. Like, duh me. But anyway.
Well,
And
explain
so,
briefly what MK Ultra is, because I know we're talking about it and you're explaining it, but just as an overview, that term might be really new to people.
okay, it's monarch programming. So that's something else they can look up. Trauma-based mind control. They learnt a number of years prior, back around the wartime, and maybe just previous to the war and after that, to create an amnesic person, you need to traumatize the child before the age of 6, and that creates the different personalities. So they had perfected the art of war and mind control in World War II. For the New World Order, which was to come, and what they did was that after that, that's when I guess they mapped out everything, and the people and the bloodlines and the programming and who they were going to program to implement the New World Order 30 odd years later, 40 odd years later. So yeah, they train children in the occult, and they train them to be spies, couriers, assassins. They program them, which is sort of like a hypnotizing, in a traumatized state, for a later date to go and do things. And that's where we find that we have false flags from, because satanic sleeper soldiers have been triggered to go and do the programming from when they were programmed back as a child. Yeah, so you could look up, which I will trigger warning this, but you can look up trauma-based mind control, or Fritz Springmeier Illuminati mind control slave, I think it's called. And yeah, there are other videos and lots about it online. They did say that the project stopped, but it's a big fat lie. The projects never stopped. They just continued on underground. They sent out Project Paperclip doctors throughout the world, and they continued the mind control, the MK Ultra, on their own families and on the public. and when I say public, that could be in mental institutions, in hospitals, and also gifted programs. They take children from gifted programs, or they did back in the 80s and 90s and so on. So yeah, that's MK Ultra.
There's so much to unpack, and I want to do like a
I
whole
know.
on that. I appreciate you breaking that down. That's one thing I was going to say. When you do research it, it'll say it was a CIA program that was discontinued decades ago, and they'll go a little bit into it and make it seem like they just did it real quick and it was over. And that is something a lot of people don't realize, is that it's never stopped happening. And the ways that it's been utilized has been just horrific, with why and who they've chosen to do these experiments on.
Mm. Yeah, it's horrible. So I started that Facebook page just so I could find out more about DID.
And what is
Dissociative.
DID, by the way? What's the difference between that and, let's just say, multiple personality disorder?
Well, there is no difference. DID, dissociative identity disorder, was formerly known as multiple personality disorder. They changed it because it is a dissociative disorder. It's not, yeah, people will be able to research that. There's so much to go into. It's best if people
Sure.
research it to get the right terminology, because you've also got DID, DNOS, which is not otherwise specified. You have a lot of new disorders that are coming out, and one of Satan's biggest secrets was to keep dissociation from you guys, to keep dissociation from the public. That's why it was not in the DSM manuals until the DSM-5, because they tried to hide that for so long, because that is how people would have figured out what was going on.
Wow.
They knew about dissociation since I think 1790 was when I wrote about it in my book. What's that guy's name? I have to. Starts with E. Anyway, he did these psychological exams, and he noticed this type of exchanged personality disorder. So they knew about it, and that's when they started perfecting it, you see, because they knew it come from trauma.
When I was studying to be a hypnotist, we learned about association and dissociation, and it was so, I never realized even in that training how associated or dissociated somebody could be. They would give examples how some children or people can go through trauma and your mind almost blocks it out. And so you have these almost black parts of your memories that you either don't remember, and you're not aware that you don't remember, or it's something you kind of purposely packed away. And I had no idea the depth of dissociation, how it can be so dramatic with
Mm,
personalities and alters coming through, and how
mm.
how deep the trauma can be also.
Yeah, and that's when, so the cult then took that and they used it for their own advantage. And behind each personality or amnesic barrier is a different part that can be trained to do what they want you to do. So I started sharing on this Facebook page all about the New World Order plans, dates, things like that. I shared about shootings, bombing,
Sorry about that.
all
That's my dog.
sorts.
Come here, baby.
It's all right.
Sorry, you guys. My doggy. Come here, Papa.
Wow.
Come here. You come say hi. Come here. I know you're good. Come here. Come
Hello.
say hi, everybody. Puppy break. Okay.
Oh, cute.
Sorry about that, you guys.
And so yeah, I was sharing all of that stuff on there, and I was sharing how they wanted to start New World Order here in New Zealand and in Phoenix, Arizona first, and what they were going to do. And then that's right. And then not long after that, on the 6th of the 6th, 16,